Okay. So this this presentation, we're kind of the discussion about the dragon year, I'm actually going to save until the end. Okay, what I really want to talk about first is how to another kind of take on this concept of qi, which we've all just experienced really physically, right? Exercises like qigong, right? We know there's qi in the human body. And Chinese medicine practitioners are kind of like the professionals of how to work with this qi in the human body. But there's also a bigger and many different ways to understand the concept of qi. Okay, so one of the ancient ones, and one of the really important ones for traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, actually has to do with the calendar and time. Okay, and we talk about heaven qi, earth qi. Tom's talking about the top and bottom of our body, or the sky and the earth as well. One of the really important references for heaven qi actually is just time and the movement of the seasons, right? So ancient people all over the world notice the seasons change, life forms change on the earth, right? What is causing these changes? How is it that the trees, the animals, the rivers, the streams, the mountains, the oceans, they can go through constant change? How come they can constantly change? And where is this change coming from? What's the source of the life that's causing this constant kind of renewal that's always available, right? The Chinese concept for this is heaven qi, tian qi, time. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, just really briefly, kind of an introduction to a Chinese medical idea of how to use time in self-care. Okay, it's very important actually. And this is a special point in Chinese medicine, actually a little bit different than Western medicine, right? In Western medicine, we know circadian rhythms, the pineal glands, we know about cortisol levels in the morning, we know about neurotransmitters being able to be replenished at night from deep sleep. These all have some loose associations with time, right? But in Chinese medicine thinking, it's very important. We actually have a kind of a deep understanding and experience of how time affects our physicality as well. Okay, so this is just going to be a basic introduction to this concept. Right, the purpose and context of this presentation, right, is intended to educate people generally about the sophisticated and potent guidance offered from Chinese calendar regarding health maintenance and disease prevention. There's a variety of information presented here, okay, so I use a bunch of different sources to put this together, not all of which will be relevant to all audiences, which has been included to stimulate further interest, okay. The information presented will be repeated and summarized at various stages of the presentation, okay. So the first important idea is introduction to the 4 seasons and 24 qi nodes. Okay, so in the Chinese calendar, everybody knows, we all know there's 4 seasons, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, right? The Chinese calendar also divides these 4 seasons into 24 very distinct periods of time called qi nodes or jie qi, right? 2-week periods of time. Okay, the Chinese calendar actually gives us really specific guidance about what to eat, when to wake up, when to go to sleep, how to manage our emotional state, kind of activities we can do throughout the year which are going to help us harmonize, right? Harmonize with the time, with the heaven qi, okay? Again, the common term here is a jie qi, which literally means like qi nodes. The picture is like segments of bamboo. Like each segment of bamboo is its own little unit, or its own little, so the whole length of bamboo actually made up of many segments is one piece, but inside the one piece there's many smaller pieces, a segment, okay? It's a common term used to describe discrete segmentation of anything. Actually in the human body, we also call the joints in the human body has the same idea, is that this is a segment, and that each of my long bones is its own kind of unique circulation, a complete cycle, okay? Most famously is used to describe joints in the human body, and the Neijing talks about this, right? Transformation of yang qi is related to the 4 limbs in the Neijing. There are 4 seasons, and each season also has 3 moons inside, and 6 qi nodes, okay? So 6 times 4 is 24. And there's many different references here. The common reference for these for the Jie Qi and the Qi nodes actually comes from the Chinese almanac called the Tongshu, which means like the calendar study or almanac study. Okay, Tongshu. So the Chinese almanac debatably is actually one of the books that has probably been in circulation longer than any other publication or book in history. Probably, we're not sure. But we have examples of it that are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old that predate the printing press in the Western world considerably. Okay. Each Qi node is about 15 days long. Okay, and 15 is an important number, again, in the Chinese medical theory from the Neijing. We say that 3 times 5, right? All Qi is 3, and then times 5 is 1 whole or 1 piece. So 15 is a really important number, also reflected in the He, Tu, and Luoshu. For those of you that get into Chinese medical numerology or the kind of sophisticated symbol science that underlies traditional Chinese medicine. And the whole system of calendrical science takes the pole star, actually, the Big Dipper, right? The North Star, the unchanging star as the center and an important reference, okay? So there's a little bit history too we're just going to talk about before we go further. Chapter 1 of the Neijing, and the Neijing is probably the most famous textual source of traditional Chinese medicine. It's commonly referenced, a really important book that kind of for the first time we see medical science taking shape in Chinese historical thought, right? We can see yin-yang, 5 elements, organs, channels, pathology, treatment, philosophy, talk about longevity, talk about the quality of human life, all these important concepts that are distinctly medical. They come together in one place in the Neijing, called the Huangdi Neijing, right? So modern scholars think that this book came out about 2,200 years ago, but the oral tradition says that actually the stories in this book are probably over 10,000 years old. Huangdi and Qibo are the 2 main narrators or characters in this book. And the whole context of the book is kind of telling stories about ancient times and how come things are different now than they were in ancient times, right? So it's giving us this idea. In the Neijing already gives us this idea. How many of you have seen a Chinese coin? Ancient Chinese coin, one of the lucky ones, right? Lucky, looks like this, right? So this actually is already a picture of the universe from Earth, right? The square is the Earth and yin, right? And the circle's like heaven and yang. So we get this idea that actually the shape of time, or kind of the shape of heaven's Qi, is like a circle, okay? And I'm kind of skipping to the end so we don't have to read through this whole slide. But the idea of, like one main reason why it's important to study time, actually regardless of our orientation, regardless of the cultural orientation or the place we find ourselves in, is if we see, and even our clocks here, there's not a clock in this room, but if you look, even our clocks today, it has the circle shape, right? The idea is that there's really no beginning and ending points, that what's behind is what's ahead is what's behind, right? So the idea is if we kind of study this phenomenon really well, we have an intimate knowledge of this phenomenon of time, which again in Chinese medicine we put under the category of Qi. The benefits it's even kind of more than what we would consider medical, right? And this is really important in classical thought.
Is this for the I Ching?
Yes, the I Ching coins. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know, not to go too far afield here, but to have a form of currency that represents kind of our situation cosmologically, this is already saying like all human beings, all times, all places. This is a picture of Earth in the universe. So it's a really interesting idea that throughout time, Chinese culture, especially classically, has looked for a way to unify different groups of people. Because ancient Chinese history is full of feudal warfare. So systems like Chinese medicine, you know, the traditional ideas of like governance and Confucianism, many like traditional Chinese martial arts, traditional Chinese medicine. They're all looking for ways to bring people together regardless of where they're from or what they believe or what their background is, right? This is really, really important. So looking for unifying concepts, and time is one of those actually, right? The whole world, we have 4 seasons. Everyone experiences. It's a little different northern and southern hemisphere, but it's important nonetheless. So the 4 seasons, each one has a distinct character. And in Chinese medicine, we study the 5 elements, right? And the 4 seasons actually match the 5 elements, but Earth is a season that supports all the other seasons. The springtime we associate with the wood element, okay? And that's going to come up later because a dragon animal kind of also has a strong association with wood transforming into fire. So we're going to talk about what that means later. The summer season associated with the fire element. Autumn season, fall, is a metal element. And finally, winter is water, okay? And each of these have other cosmological associations. Again, the dragon you'll notice here is traditionally associated with the east direction wood element. And among the Si Xiang, which actually Tom mentioned earlier, is kind of the Xiao Yang, it's a small yang. Okay, so in the springtime, now we're going to talk about advice. All right, let me see if I can zoom this in just a little bit so you can read better. Okay, in the springtime, in chapter 2 of the Neijing, the Si Qi Tiao Shen, the 3 months of spring are a time of birth, generation, and renewal of yang. Okay, so the key word for springtime is generation. Generation. It means out of nothing is coming something. Okay, so the wintertime, everything was kind of quiet. Everything's like it's not a lot of activity. Everything calms down. Everything slows down. Right? Transition from wintertime into spring, it's like all this new activity. And where is it coming from? Right? Well, how come it's showing up? Right? This is just the quality of wood qi itself. Okay, so generation. Out of nothing, something's coming. So the advice is like to go to bed when the sun goes down. So that could be kind of early, and then wake up when it comes up. Why go to bed early and wake up early in the springtime? Right? Because of the early morning hours is the time when we can catch that wood qi, we can catch the freshness of the energy, and we can catch the qi of life, like life is kind of like, again, it's rising up in the springtime. So waking up early is a really good idea. Going to bed early is a really good idea. Not only that, but going to bed early and then trying not to eat late at night, because our gallbladders, also associated with the wood element, gallbladders really benefit if we don't eat late at night. We should have kind of a light dinner, nourishing, very nourishing and rich breakfast and lunch, light dinner, and then we'll be able to sleep deeper. We can give our gallbladder and liver a rest and let it kind of clean up our body in the springtime. Okay, practice Neigong or whatever exercise you like to do, like the exercise we just learned from Tom. Want to practice that outside in the morning, okay, with our hair and clothes kind of loose. Because again, we want to encourage a free flow during the springtime, okay, generation. Protect yourself from the wind, okay? So if you're caught, if there's wind outside, which happens during the spring, because wind happens when hot and cold air meet, and we're going from the wintertime to the summertime. So during the spring, we have hot and cold air meeting. We can be exposed to wind. You want to try and protect yourself from wind, okay? So practice indoor if you're feeling cold or if you're easily sweat. Make sure you practice your Neigong or your exercise indoors. If you're pretty strong and robust and vital, it's okay to practice outdoors. Just try and avoid very windy locations, okay? So if you don't follow, so there's one more piece of advice. From the kind of like cosmological perspective, we want to help the young yang survive at this time. So it means don't kill any animals or insects in the springtime. So try to avoid stepping on small insects. Don't kill flies in the house. wait until like the summer or autumn to do that. The springtime, we want to let all the new life, it's just trying to come out, right? So we want to kind of protect it because it has a job to do for all the different ecosystems and environments it may be involved in. We also want to protect the weak and the young. Give and don't take, right? We want to be more generous. Actually, practicing generosity also helps our liver. And we want to try and reward more and punish less in the springtime. Autumn time, all this goes to the other direction, right? So springtime is important to be more generous. Try and be more magnanimous. Spread the yang qi, right? If you disobey this advice, it can harm the liver, right? So letting frustration build up, letting anger build up, not giving it an outlet can harm the liver in the springtime. Actually, will have health consequences in the summer, the fall, and the winter. Okay. Specifically, the Neijing says, right, if you kind of go against this advice in the springtime, right, you may have cold syndromes in the summer. You might have cold invade the body when it shouldn't. Because the springtime, the yang qi needs to move out. So in the summertime, it can become really full and spread. If we don't let that yang qi spread and move in the springtime, then the cold can attack us when it shouldn't in the summer. Okay, so that's the advice for spring. Here's some ideas for treatment principles if you're a practitioner. There's actually specific advice we give for practitioners, Chinese medicine practitioners, in terms of acupuncture points that may be more effective to use for certain conditions in the spring, certain advice for our patients to really follow based on certain conditions, based on time, again, in the spring. A lot of this information I took is actually from a slideshow I prepared for a whole class I was teaching on the calendar. One interesting and entertaining notion for the springtime, one way to cultivate this wood type qi in the springtime is actually art appreciation. Okay? Music, movies, books. It's a good idea to feel open and tender enough. Maybe even shed some tears in the springtime. This can be really medically beneficial. Okay, to have that openness of emotion in the springtime particularly, okay? Right? It's a sign that we have a healthy hun, or the spirit of our liver is healthy. We're able to relate. We're not afraid to relate. We can let go of the stagnation of winter, right? So every year, actually, we have this whole, if we can follow this heaven qi throughout the year, it's like we're renewing ourselves every year. Okay, every year provides us with that opportunity. Okay, what about the summer? Summer is associated with fire element, heat type qi, the south direction, the number 7, and the flavor bitter. Right? In chapter 2 of the Neijing, the Si Qi Tiao Shen, the 3 months of summer are a time for what? So after the yang qi already moved out, now it needs to grow to fullness. So this is the same thing we see in nature, right? It's that summertime when the fruits on the trees are ripening. The animals, they were babies in the spring, now they're growing up. Their bodies are becoming stronger and bigger. That's full of yang qi in the summer, right? So the key word for summer is growth. Keyword for springtime was generation, okay? Once it's generated in the spring, then summer it needs to grow. It needs to become really strong. Okay, so in the summertime, it's okay for us to go to bed a little bit later. Remember, springtime, I said go to bed early, wake up early. Summertime, we can go to bed a little bit later. Why? Because the sun is out longer, right? There's more light. There's more opportunities to do things during the day. So summertime, actually, it's important we take that opportunity. It's important we're more active during the day. We can actually, again, spread our yang qi when it needs to be spread. Okay? You don't want to avoid sunshine during the summer. That's the other thing, unless it's for medical reasons, like maybe you have some skin condition or something else you need to avoid. But for generally healthy people, it's important, especially during the summertime, get some sun on your skin a little bit, okay? And sweating during the summer is the summer season is the most okay season to sweat. Fall and winter, we really kind of discourage from sweating. But summertime, a little bit's okay, all right? During the day, this can be a way out for heat toxins that may be lodging in the blood. So summertime, we can naturally clear those out. Okay, it's important to eat well throughout the day to support our qi and blood and jinya, our body fluids that are consumed by this activity. So we really need to make sure we get enough nutrition for this growth that's going to happen, because this free flow of yang, qi, and blood can happen all summer. Okay, if we don't follow the advice for the summer, like maybe we don't nourish ourselves well, we're not active enough. We didn't wake up early and go to bed late. We didn't kind of follow summertime qi. Then in the autumn, we could get fever, and we may actually have like sleep problems or emotional problems because our yang qi wasn't able to move all the way out. In the autumn time, when it needs to fall in, it will get stuck on the outside, causing heat, causing deficiency heat. Maybe later on in the winter, we also could have a yin deficiency from that. Okay? So here's some more treatment principles for practitioners. It's a good time to clear heat if there's excess heat. Also safe to descend yang at this time. Bitter foods are good to eat in the summer. Okay, so like bitter melon, dandelion greens. Okay, it's very popular and nutritious food, right? Best eaten kind of late spring, early summer dandelion greens, okay? But be careful, you don't want to overeat bitter foods because that can damage yin and qi. Okay, vegetables are most easily digested in the summer, so kind of autumn and winter we may have trouble digesting vegetables, especially raw vegetables, should maybe avoid during the winter. Summertime, some is okay, all right? And for a Chinese medicine practitioner to say that, that's saying a lot, In the evenings, we really want to let everything go in the summer. We really want to let everything go and make sure that we can sleep deep. The reason being is that during the summer, our yang qi is kind of the most pushed out. And sleep is when our yang qi descends back in, right? So summertime, we really need to let everything go in order to have a deep sleep, okay? Autumn season, right? Si Qi Tiao Shen, chapter 2 of the Neijing says, the 3 months of autumn are for maturation and harvest of the yangs, now returning back into yin. Just like spring was about the yang qis coming out, summer was it grow to fullness, autumn it kind of turns back around and starts to come back in towards yin. Okay, so the key word here is storage in the autumn time. We want to enhance our body's ability to store energy and to store nutrition. So we want to make sure we prevent any kind of leakage at that time. Okay, we want to go to bed late still because the sun is still up longer as we came out of summer. But we want to also wake up late so we can stay in bed a little later, which I think naturally happens. People naturally feel this way. Right? So we want to sleep longer, but still we need to prepare for the hibernation in winter. Acrid food, so spicy food, can help drive off the cold. So it's okay. A little bit of spicy food in the autumn time can help make sure that none of that outside cold can lodge in our channels or in our body. Be careful with the spicy food though. If you overeat it, it can lead to dryness and damage your body fluids, which you don't want at this time. Again, don't eat late at night because that could have some unintended consequences for your digestive organs, could impact your sleep. Autumn time, your dreams are naturally also going to become deeper as a yang returns back into the yin. So this is a good time to kind of enjoy that and savor that, right? So this is time also kind of in terms of cosmologically, it's a time to repent, is the autumn time. It's a time to look back over the year and think about your conduct, to really think about making edits to your conduct. Reflect and be honest with yourself. It's a kind of contemplation that cleans the storehouse, right? Because we're preparing for winter. Anxiety is unsettling and can cause big health problems at this time. So we just want to be honest with ourselves. It's an indication that summer yang was overexpressed. So we may have some heat if we didn't follow the summertime advice. Okay, so we want to take deep, long, slow breaths. Sighing and groaning is okay in the autumn, and it's actually encouraged to help us get settled into the yin time, okay? Soup is a really good idea during autumn as well, okay, because it's so easy to digest and it's so nourishing. In the autumn time, there's also treatment principles we can follow. Massage is a good idea to help move lymph and blood and body fluids as everything slows down and congeals a bit in the autumn. Okay, constipation is probably going to happen more, and if it's on the mild side, it's kind of okay because our body's, again, going to be holding on to things more during the autumn time. Insomnia, we want to really watch out for, though, because sleep is so important in the autumn. And if you feel a little sleepy and fatigued, again, in the autumn, that's kind of okay. That's a natural sign your body's yang qi is going back inside to store, okay? So a lot of this advice, too, it's like just to be careful not to go against what's actually naturally happening in the environment, right? So if like autumn time it's okay to be a little sleepy, then maybe it's not a good idea to overdo stimulants at that time. Because actually our body wants to store energy. And if we overdo stimulants, it can be really draining, okay? Finally, we've got the winter time. Si qi tiao shen, again, the chapter 2 of the Neijing says, the winter time is for closing and kind of hiding. The yang qi needs to hide deep within the body, so we don't want to bother it at all, actually. Sweating is not advised. Strenuous exertion is not advised. This is kind of the time where it's okay to go to bed early and wake up late. So maximize the amount of time spent resting, okay? Desires and intent should kind of be limited, sublimated. We need to just let a lot of our intentions for activity go, right? Just rest. If we disobey that, then we could harm the kidney and a reproductive capacity, and also acute deficiency can result. So in the spring and summer of following year, you may have a lot of fatigue, actually. Okay, warm foods are good. Hot is okay to dispel cold, but we shouldn't use it aggressively. We need to be careful, okay? The treatment principles for the winter, we always want to encourage everything to store in the body. So we want to make sure, again, not too much sweating, not overexerting ourselves. We're getting deep, restful sleep. Okay, make sure our body fluids are well maintained. Here's some advice for practitioners using points. And then I've got in review all of the advice that I gave. If any of you want a copy of this PowerPoint, you can email Eleanor. I'll gladly provide it. But now I'm going to kind of transition into like the bigger picture of the dragon year and where we're at with this dragon year. How can we follow the dragon year? Right. So if any of you know, there's 12 animals from the 12 earthly branches. Right. 12 earthly branches that represent traditional Chinese kind of astrology, right? So each season or each segment, we kind of have like 3 different animals that represent, right? And it always starts with rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, then to snake, horse, sheep, monkey, right? Rooster, over to dog, then pig. Okay, I think I drew one extra line I didn't need. There should be 12. Right now we're right here with the dragon. So this clock also is the same thing as the yin-yang symbol. So generally the animals on this side represent yang ascending. The animals on this side represent the yang qi descending or more yin. So dragon kind of happens right as the yang qi is reaching its fullness. So dragon years are always good years for kind of like big demonstrations of activity. Also, dragon years are good years to start projects that are going to have a long-term, big consequences. And it's a good year to kind of like get organized and make plans for action. From that same standpoint, kind of dragon year has some challenges in that because everyone's going to be feeling strong. Everyone's going to be feeling more apt to take risks or take action, then maybe more conflicts can happen too. Right? Because maybe last year, rabbit year, we're feeling more hesitant or more anxious. Then dragon year, everyone feels they feel strong. So they're taking action, but sometimes it can conflict with each other, right? The green dragon, though, so this is a wood dragon year. The wood dragon is like the young dragon because, again, wood, fire, metal, water. We have like youth, adolescence, maturity, old age. So this is a young dragon, which means a especially good time to start new projects, or especially good time to like, it's almost like to embrace that wood chi that's available from the dragon, to make plans, long-term plans. If we go through the animals, right? It's like if you're a dog, it can be a challenging year for you, maybe. Particularly people born in dog years, more challenging. Dragon year, also you would think in the same year that you're born, when your animal comes up, it's going to be great, but actually it's usually pretty challenging because it'll be the same things that are on your kind of lifetime menu. So a lot of your similar stuff could be coming up. Really good year for if you're born in a monkey year. This is a really good year, this dragon year. Okay, ingenuity, creativity, coming up with solutions that are really creative. They can have big effects this year, okay? In the previous years, you might have felt a little stymied, like especially monkey cheetahs might have had some trouble figuring out how to really generate activity. This year, it's gonna take off, okay? Dogs, again, kind of challenging because in a year where there's so much activity and there's so much available, and people are planning and getting their acts together, the dogs are really loyal and they feel a lot of, usually feel like, you know, the emotional attachment to the members of the group is something that they pay really close attention to. But in a dragon year, everyone's thinking big picture, and they might not be attending to the details of things like how they treat each other, their manners, whether they're like, you know, thinking about everybody in the group. Dragon year is not really about that. Dragon year is about this kind of big picture action, you know. So dogs might have some challenges with that because they want to feel like everyone's being duly respected, and they want to feel like everyone's on the same page, right? This is not the year for that, actually. This is the year for action, you know. Tiger year, any tiger year people here? I'm one. That you might, because it's like dragon is this big picture, and tigers kind of they like whatever they put their energy into. They want to see the direct results. It's like a predatory animal that wants to jump for the big prey, you know. So tigers might feel, this is like, these plans are too long term. This is a little boring. So for tigers, just don't get discouraged. Keep applying yourself. Any of you have any questions, like any animals you want to hear about, how they fare in the dragon year? Yeah. Rat. Okay, so it's really good, auspicious. So dragon, rat, monkey are in a trinity. So the last rabbit year and tiger years can be really nerve-wracking for rats. Finally, the dragon year is going to feel like the planning you've been doing for so long. There's some opportunities for things to line up. And it's kind of like, okay. You've been maybe kind of having to hold back, waiting for this opening and just not seeing the details line up. Dragon year, it's kind of close to, or there's some action that you can take, finally. Yeah. Any other animals? Ox. Okay, so because oxes are so good at being consistent, and so good at kind of like applying their work ethic like very consistently. The important things for the oxes in the dragon year is to get on a team, because the team members who are going to help you connect to this big picture action stuff, they will really appreciate what you have to offer. And so you might not have to shoulder so much individually during this dragon year. If you can get on a good team, it could lead to some great things in the future. Ox is kind of like neutral. Dragon's like it can go well or it can be challenging, right? Again, if you try and do too much on your own, it can be really challenging this year. But if you can open up your vision of how what you do individually could tie into a big picture, could be like really great. Yeah. Any other animals? Any questions? Anybody?
I have a question. When does spring and all these other things start? And is it different in different climates?
Okay, so it's a good question. I'm going to reframe how I heard the question. Right, so heaven and earth, time and space, right? What's happening above the horizon and below the horizon. When does spring start, right? When does summer start? When does fall start? Winter start? So the Chinese calendar is a little bit different than the Western Gregorian calendar, and it does factor in the moons, right? So usually Chinese calendar is about 2 weeks ahead, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of Western calendar. So for example, we're already in Chinese spring now, and it started when the dragon year started. The rationale for that is because we already see the changes in nature heralding the coming of spring. As soon as we see those changes in nature, we consider it's already springtime qi. So the Western calendar actually waits for like the apex or of the position of the sun. The Chinese calendar pays more attention a little bit to the heaven and earth meeting, so everything happens a little sooner. Feng Shui answer to your question is like there's a difference between climate and season. So season is a time phenomenon, independent of climate. Whereas like it's springtime here, it's also springtime in Nevada, but the climate in Nevada is very different from the climate here. So the rules for springtime apply, but there would be another set of rules based on climate, which we didn't get to talk about today, which would be like a feng shui. That's like a going more towards the direction of how do time and space interact. That's a feng shui is the science for that. Does that make sense? It's way more complicated. Other questions? Goat, sheep, yeah. Really good in the dragon year. Really, really good. Kind of similar to rat. The goats have been kind of anxious and a little bit hesitant because everything's not been kind of lining up for this big picture teamwork type of stuff, which goats are all about. The goats are like the natural managers of the Chinese Zodiac. They know how to think about everybody and know what everyone needs to do and when and how to get groups to work harmoniously. So in a dragon year, the sheep people, they also are going to be able to relax a little bit because they will see people naturally kind of finding their avenues for action and naturally kind of finding their rhythms a little bit better than in the rabbit year where everyone's a little bit withdrawn, and then the tiger year where everyone's a little aggressive, and then the ox year where everyone's just trying to tough it out. Dragon year, things kind of open up a little bit. And again, it's this opportunity for action, but we also want appropriate action. And so sheeps are all about that. I think this is a good year for sheep. Yeah.
Pigs.
Pigs, yeah, so similar to dog. The advice for pigs is to like, not get too worried that all this planning and all this big activity, that can also be a little bit unnerving because the question is like, how do we feel? The pig question is like how we feel about all this, right? Rather than like, where is this going and like, what are we gonna do? Pig is like, yeah, but am I gonna enjoy it? You know, and the dragon can feel a little aggressive that way, right? So the answer for pigs is like, to maintain their pig chi, they just need to keep checking in with their friends. They need to like invite their friends over. They need to like go out with their friends. They need to like, cook some meals for their friends, have their friends cook some meals for them. Make sure that they don't get too spun out from the activity that's about to take place. Yeah. Be well nourished. Pigs is very important. They're well nourished. Their homes are maintained in a certain kind of way. They're very domestic in the best sense of the word. Like know how to take care of themselves. Know how to make other people feel good. Dragon's not really about this. It doesn't care so much how we feel. Dragon's like the plans and the action. Just go for it, right? Almost like receiving orders. Like the dragon year is giving you orders. Like you need to do this year. And then the pig's kind of like, yeah. Does that make sense? Any others? Snakes. Yeah. So snakes are gonna get it. Snakes are gonna get it this year. They see like what's possible. The thing about snakes is like, just make sure for snakes, the advice would be like, everyone's going to be talking big or talking a lot, or it's going to seem like a lot of activity, but snakes know, like, you know, they're a little skeptical about all this. They're kind of like, like, we'll just see. And that's good. I think snakes should stay. I think snakes should wait until next year. Kind of don't get too drawn into all the activity, or as they see things kind of opening up. Just here and there. They also kind of will need to hold back a little bit. Make sure they don't get too, kind of take care of themselves, self-care. Make sure that they, even if the party's going late and everyone's excited, the snake should still go home when they need to go home to go to bed. You know what I mean? That kind of advice. But they'll get it, and they'll be able to tap into it. But they also might be a little bit skeptical of it all, which is good, actually. That's good for them.